Welcome to Try This at Home. I'm Cliff Bumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
This week we are talking about Mythbusters Season 1, Episode 13. Our myths are chicken gun,
Bang.
octopus pregnancy,
Bang.
and killer washing machine.
Bang, 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 bang.
This episode first aired January 18th, 2004, directed as always by Peter Rees, and I think this is a weirdly important episode for us.
Ooh.
Because of the chicken cannon. We have referenced the chicken cannon in all of our marketing, all of our synopsis. It's in our trailer. And I had no idea it happened this soon on the show.
I had not seen this episode.
Oh,
This was new. This was new to me.
That's cool. So what were your overall takeaways?
Fantastic.
You enjoyed
Absolutely.
it?
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
A Little Trouble in Paradise.
Yes.
For the first time.
Yes, the first time we've seen some Adam and Jamie friction.
And it makes it into the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
at least
that,
at this level,
at
the first time.
Exactly. Exactly. So I found that, we'll get into it, but I did find it interesting from the production standpoint that they were like, leave it in.
Well, and that goes to my overall note for this episode, which was I liked it a lot. I love the chicken gun.
Yeah.
Not a huge
It's a cannon. Let's be real.
It's so great. But I thought the myths, and obviously we'll get there, I thought each myth had a little bit of oddness to it and left me with some like weird kind of questions and feelings on a couple of things. But this was a great character episode. Yes. The little moments with Adam and Jamie, not just the fight, but there's other little moments that happen throughout the show where it's like, okay, this isn't really advancing the plot or the story in any way, but it's advancing these characters. And it really felt like the show was coming into its own with that. Like, we really know who these people are now. We care about these people. I thought it was a really good episode for that.
Agreed. It also happens to include the hardest I've laughed yet. I mean, like, I had to pause the show.
Oh, that's a good tease.
I couldn't work it out of my system.
That's a good tease. You'll have to tell us when we get there.
Can't wait.
Myth 1, chicken gun.
Bang.
So this is a legendary myth from Mythbusters, and the idea comes from the fact that chicken guns are a real thing. They are giant air cannons used to test windshields and glass for airplanes.
Yeah.
And apparently the way the story goes is that someone was doing their own tests with a chicken gun, and they were just blowing through every windshield they tried. And when they wrote to, I guess it was the FAA, is that who they said it was?
Yeah.
They to say what's going on, the phrase that came back was, "Gentlemen, thaw your chickens."
I am so glad that you included gentlemen in that, because the address really
it's the thing. I remember that from when this episode came on. I was like, "Oh, gentlemen, thaw your chickens." I remembered that. It is such a great line. But
are you also hearing it in like the NASCAR voice?
Totally.
Okay, all right, good.
100%.
Gentlemen, thaw your chickens.
So the real question then is, do frozen chickens do more damage than thawed?
Yes, and they go out of their way this time to explicitly state what they are testing for and what will make it true or false, and
which
just do not follow it at all.
This is true. I feel like part of the reason they lay it out is because of where it's going to go with the mistake that they made becomes important, so that becomes a step along the way. I did love, and this kind of goes back to some stuff we've talked about, like with Escape from Alcatraz. I loved that they took a story, they took something they just wanted to make a chicken gun, but they found a testable binary question, right? Sure. Frozen or thawed, what does more damage? It wasn't just, oh, we're going to make a cool thing and the story is kind of loosey-goosey. They really did have a real question to this, which was awesome.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, chicken guns are a real thing. That was like my first thing I wanted to do was read about this to set the stage. The first recorded chicken gun, which is a wonderful phrase in its own right, was built in 1942.
That's late.
I know.
That's much later than I would have.
It's kind
of. No, I'm kidding. That's
It's kind of wild. It was built by the U.S. Civil Aeronautics Administration in collaboration with the Westinghouse Manufacturing Company. So the people who made like appliances and fridges and stuff back then. Their cannon could fire bird carcasses at up to 400 miles per hour. And these things are still used today.
Was it developed for a certain conflict?
Sounds about right,
the timing does. Yes.
What was going on in the mid-1940s, early 1940s that might have...
Nothing is coming to mind. Hey, do you want to shoot some chickens at some glass? I know I do. I'm from the 40s.
What's great is these things are still in use, and because they're
Wait, is that real?
What?
Is that true?
Yes.
They're still...
Chicken guns are still being used. And not only that, I actually found a document that quoted from official FAA guidelines, which do state, they don't tell you what kind of bird to use. So they are bird cannons. They're not specifically for chickens. However, chickens are most commonly used because they're so easy to get.
Yeah.
So the FAA doesn't say what kind of bird to use. They do specifically state to use thawed birds.
But do they say, gentlemen, do you thaw?
I wish. I was looking for that. But this is interesting.
Control F, gentlemen.
And I think it's important to set this at the top. They say to use thawed birds because frozen ones might contain dense ice particles if incompletely thawed, or be dehydrated if over-thawed. Both, I guess, do not create accurate testing conditions.
So it has nothing to do with the fact that it's like harder.
Well, I guess the ice crystals may have something to do with that, but in terms of the official FAA guidelines, that's what they say. I do think that the basic question in this myth of what does more damage is still completely relevant, and with where the things go, as you mentioned, that becomes really important later on. But
yeah,
it's kind of crazy that there is an official statement about this.
This myth definitely had a lot of like we got into science that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of physics stuff that like we can prove that it's true, but I'm just like, no. Yeah. Like I think an example I brought up previously was like, if you jump on top of a moving train, you don't stop. And I'm like, yeah, you do.
Of course you do.
Yeah. It's a similar thing where they're like, so the mass hasn't changed at all. I was like, if it's frozen, I guess, you know.
I do actually have some thoughts and a theory on that I want to save for the end.
Okay.
Because there was a part of this question that didn't make sense to me in terms of where they ended up. But I do think, if memory serves, this gets redone. They come back to this myth down the road. Because there was a certain test that I remembered that is not in this episode.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure that it does come back down the road. So lots to get in with that one as we go. But this whole episode hinges, the reason you feel like they probably got into this is because they have to make a chicken gun. And this is one of the most memorable creations in all of Mythbusters history for me.
A real Willy Wonka invention here.
No lie. It's so cool.
It's so much bigger than I imagined.
Well, and to build it, they also have to go, it's like a hodgepodge of great season 1 Mythbuster stuff where they have to go to these wonderful places to gather the scrap material to make their crazy junkyard creation.
They have to go on a series of fetch quests
exactly.
to put together. They have to gather the Infinity Stones.
I wanted somebody to be like, well, I have a fuselage, but you need to run this errand for me. Test this myth for me, and maybe I'll give you a fuselage.
Yes, I have one. But first, I need something from you.
Like that's the Mythbusters video
the point
game.
And click.
It'd be so
great. Yes.
Oh, I would play that all day long.
Jamie does all the voices.
Yes.
And does not change his voice for anybody.
And there's like a bonus game where like something's hidden in the aircraft junkyard. You have to find it. Oh man, that would be so great.
Is it a chicken carcass? It might be.
It might be.
It might be.
Or it's a piece of Buster. Find Buster's patella. Oh man, I want this game to exist. I want this game so bad.
It's out there, we swear.
Gotta be, but it has to be like it's like 8-bit, right?
Oh, it's like grody.
Oh yeah,
and just old, and it crashes all the time.
Totally.
It can only run on Windows 95.
Oh man, I love this. If we would get sued to oblivion, I would just want to make it.
But like they'd have to sue us, and
True.
they would love it. I don't know about discovery.
That is basically the principle that this podcast is based on.
Please don't sue us.
Oh, man. But they do go to an aircraft junkyard to buy this fuselage. We've seen these aircraft junkyards and all these kind of things before. It makes it no less cool to just see them just running around in a place full of airplane parts. I want to go to one of these places so bad. It just looks so cool.
It's also... The Fetch Quest scenes were, I don't know why, but sometimes I just forget how much technical expertise Adam in particular has. I guess it's because he jokes so much that I'm like,
he's very disarming. He's just very disarming in his charm and personality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he'll just like rattle off some wild facts. Like, you gleaned that at a glance?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. I can tell you everything about that plane.
And that
okay,
that kind of thing blows my mind even more. And like, obviously the internet was around in 2004 when this came out, but like, haven't been there that long. Like, there wasn't nearly the resources on there, and you didn't have a smartphone. So like, he's pulling manuals and stuff. He's got engineering books and whatnot. Like, that is some old school gathered nerd knowledge.
He's in the library.
Exactly.
Not Libby, mind
Those
you.
are some thick books that he is diving into for that kind of information, which is great. Did you notice when they get the fuselage, they put it into a container back at M5?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the same one from the Pigs myth.
I thought that one blew up.
No, the one that they just stored the car in for the 2 months or whatever.
Oh, wow. Yes,
the big shipping container?
Yes.
It looked like it was in the same place. And I was like, oh, that whole myth is about how uncleanable things were. And I know that the car would have been way worse than the container, but still I was just like, oh, as soon as I saw it could be a completely different container, but that myth so has me that I saw the fuselage going in, and I felt bad for the plane. I was like, oh god, no.
I mean, they had to have bought that container, right?
I sure hope
nobody's gonna
I don't know, maybe at this time in the show, because people didn't know them as well, they could still just rent or borrow things, and then they start handing them back full of dead pig, and people are like, we're not gonna
months old pig soup.
we're not gonna lend you our stuff anymore. You guys can't be trusted. Oh gosh.
Are you guys gonna do something weird to it? No.
Why would we?
Why would you think that?
No. Have you met my C4 guy? They also
Rick, blow it.
They also show here something that we've talked about before, but I think this is the first time it appears on the show, which is Jamie's 7-Up vending machine gun.
Yes. Yeah.
That is an iconic ad, and it is one of the things that I remember. It was when I was watching Mythbusters as a kid, when they showed that was my connection to like, oh my gosh, he made that. Like, that's a thing that people do, is of course somebody has to make the 7-Up gun for the commercial.
Yeah.
But of course, I'd never thought of it as a kid. And so that stuck in my head as this other iconic prop.
Well, think about how incredibly strange it is in any other situation for them to be like, all right, we need to test how to shoot a chicken really, really fast. And one dude raises his hand and is like, I might have something.
I got it. I got it.
I already have it on hand. Don't you worry your pretty little self.
It's in the corner. It's just in the corner.
Yeah, maybe some like minor modifications, but we'll be fine.
Yeah. Not only do I have the stuff, I have to modify it out of my 7-Up vending machine that has tank tracks on it and shoots.
It does.
It does.
It does. It's a little tank.
And I love We've talked so much about how Jamie is just like a robot. When he's shooting it, he looks so happy. They're like shooting cans at a wall and they're just exploding. And Jamie is just, that he's had this thing for years. He's done this a million times, and it brings him that much joy every single time.
I really like to imagine that he built it, and then 7-Up was like, "What could we do?"
Yeah.
I mean,
he just showed up at their office.
Tank. Yes, he drives it to the interview.
They didn't ask him to build it. He just showed up with the tank. I wanted to. I thought you might want this.
If it had a horn, what would the tune be to?
Oh, it's got to be like one of those old, RV. Or whatever. It's got to be.
Or just like a foghorn. That would be
sounds like the Undertaker showing up.
Yeah. Bong.
We get a second great shopping montage, this time in a junkyard full of old pressure tanks.
Yeah.
Which is another one of those, like, I get the aircraft junkyard. That makes sense as to why that would exist. Never occurred to me that there would be a tank or a junkyard just for tanks.
No.
Of course.
No. Different type of tank this time, audience.
And that's the funny thing is I prepped this episode. Did my notes for this actually a little while ago. I was kind of getting ahead. Mm-hmm. So I came back to my notes today to refresh, and I saw junkyard of tanks, and I was like, I don't remember that. And I was like, air tank. Air tank. Okay.
Yes.
The tank tracks are on the vending machine. Of course.
Cliff, you idiot. How could you? No, not that type. That type of tank is over there with the 7-Up machine. You know the one.
And you hinted on this in our open. This is where we get our first real, I would say, heated Adam and Jamie argument.
Your intuition is that it's not like a bomb.
Yeah.
But if it is, we're all dead and...
Well, this is true.
The long pause. Just, we're all beep. Nothing.
Also, it is so funny to the phrase presented to you is, we're all dead and beeped. And your response is, well, this is true. Like going up, like you clearly have more to say. Like you have acknowledged the face of death.
You should be pitching that down, my friend.
However,
yeah, that's
be
true.
that as it may, I think it would look really cool.
So we should say, like, basically what this argument is over is they're talking about what kind of tank to use and whether it can withstand the pressure that they're going to be putting into it and the way that they're going to pressurize it and all these things. And Adam makes the point of, like, the way you're talking about doing this, you're basically making a bomb. And Jamie, they talk about, because of the 7-Up vending machine, he's had experience with these kind of things before. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was an interesting kind of insight into how he thinks. And I've known people like this who... I think Jamie is so intelligent that he has worked it out in his head.
Yeah.
In his mind, he's done the weighted average, and he knows what the risk is, and he's got everything figured out, and he's like, I know this is going to be okay. Yeah. But he can't explain that. You know? Yeah. I've known people like that who it's like, go in my head and tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
In here, it's all fine. But when it comes to safety, I'm with Adam that if you can't explain that, that might be a problem.
I am too, but it is very funny to see Adam be the voice of reason and the one like suggesting.
The guy who has spent a season of a television show hurting himself in all kinds of ways.
Is like, perhaps we pump the brakes a bit this time.
Let's slow down a touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting because Adam and Jamie, their relationship is, such a legendary kind of part of the show.
Yeah.
But this is the first time that we've seen the sparks like this. We've seen them get annoyed with each other. We've seen I don't care actually, Adam. But for an actual, Adam says like what you're talking about doing is stupid. And
this is borderline suicide.
Yeah. And like gets in Jamie's face about it, which we haven't seen. And it was, I hate it when mom and dad fight. I didn't like seeing it, but because it's such a famous part of the show, it was interesting to see that finally kind of come into
almost the
it.
origin. Yeah. It was also like their comments afterward were rather personal.
Oh yeah.
Like Jamie said something like, yeah, well, I'm just over there throwing a hissy fit, acting like a child. It's like, you do want to blow something up. Like he's not.
It's good. I gotta say though, it's good producing. Where as soon as the argument happens, they get each guy off to their off on
to
their
your
own
corners, gentlemen,
and interview each of them about what happened. Yeah. Like it's
Anyway, how about that jerk off, right?
Yeah, it's like. It's very Survivor, immediately of just like, ooh, early reality TV.
How do you feel about them stabbing you in the back just now? Not great. Speak on that.
I heard he said your mother is,
I heard he said your mother also has a mustache. Why is that funny? She does. It's better than mine.
Runs in the family. Goes back 6 generations. They end up. Adam kind of ends up
6 generations.
Adam kind of.
What happened to the 7th?
Who knows?
Oh,
Heinemann family secret. Adam kind of ends up winning the argument because they go with a smaller tank that's not going to be able to, be quite as dangerous as the bigger tank. One thing I really like, though, is when Adam comes back with the new tank, which apparently is the same day from how you hear them talking about it.
Yeah.
He apologizes to Jamie for how heated he got and for saying, basically calling him stupid. And not only does it, tell you something about Adam and his character that he did that, it was really nice that they put that in.
Mm-hmm.
They could have left it with the tension. A lesser show would have.
Yeah.
Would have just left it with, it's a big fight and whatever. Because it doesn't have any bearing on the story of the episode, ultimately. So
no,
it wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have been waiting for it, right? If that didn't happen, they could have left it in the moment of conflict. And they didn't. They actually chose to put that in the show and make that, make that part of it. And I thought that was great. Like, I just thought that was really cool and a good decision that the show made.
I do too. And I'm also really trying to watch it through the lens of taking them at their word in their own respective, like everything that they've talked about after the show has ended.
Yeah.
Like, were you guys like horrible enemies or best friends? Like, we were coworkers. Like that's its own distinct relationship. You're going to fight sometimes. You are going to love them sometimes. It's just like, it's more, and I don't know. It does come out in moments like this where I'm like, it's not a hate thing. It's not a love thing.
It's two very different brains.
Yeah.
It's just two like fundamentally different ways of seeing things that I don't know if there's a way for that to be conflict free.
That's such a good point because it's, if anything, it's stranger that two such different brains that it works really well in tandem like 80% of the time. That's wild.
Yeah, well, it's that thing of like, when you have two very different brains like that, even though it may not work socially, it allows you to solve problems.
That's
because
a really good point.
They're looking at it from two completely different ways, and at the end of the day, that's their job on this show. Is like, yes, they're television hosts and yes, they're entertainers, but at the end of the day, they're engineers. They're doing this live engineering on camera, basically.
Yeah.
And like that requires a kind of problem solving that, if they get some of these things wrong, it can be very dangerous. We've already seen this season, and we didn't really like it when Jamie's life was at risk. They are, to Adam's point, building a bomb, in this scene. So you need those different brains to kind of keep each other in check.
And that's more where I think that it was strategic from the production side to include it. It was almost like it wasn't about, we're trying to set up this tiff storyline between the two of them, as much as they're like, we do seriously think about this. Like, we are not just throwing them in the deep end and being like, all right, sink or swim, kid.
Right.
That it makes me feel safer for them,
And I think it probably helped them just as a show to make Adam and Jamie, make those characters experts and make them more, in that way. Yeah, I think it has a big impact on how you watch the show and where they were able to go and what they could ultimately do. That is orders of magnitude more dangerous than where we are right now.
Yes. And it like convinces me even more that they are experts, because experts do disagree, especially when it comes to like safety and
totally
what are we willing to risk right now.
And the other reason, not to get too like whatever about this, but the other reason I liked that they put the apology in is that they show it's the right way to disagree.
Yes.
Right? Disagreeing to a productive end, which, again, this is, I don't want to get political, but just like the way the world is right now, we don't have a lot of good models for that. And it was cool to see that. It was cool to see. I'm sure these guys don't see eye to eye on pretty much anything, but when it really mattered, when everything else goes away, it's about the problem and it's about solving the problem, not about my stance or your stance.
And safety.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that if there's anything to get passionate over, like, I'm fine with you getting a little heated over it. No, people could be in harm's way.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
You need to understand that's a big deal.
I'm glad Adam learned that after, burning himself on microwaves and constantly using his mouth to test things.
This is how we learn and grow as people, Cliff. Just put our mouths on a few things just to try it out.
I have a challenge for you, but also for our listeners, because this will be putting you on the spot, but our listeners can have a little bit more time.
Great.
So in this part of the episode, they go to get their chickens. They're just buying a bunch of frozen chickens. Yes. And when I was going and making my notes, sometimes I do a placeholder, do a placeholder note of like, I'll think of a joke for this later, or I'll think of something and I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
They went to a place for the place that they got the chickens from. It's called Tarantino's. Mm-hmm. And I just put a note of like, ooh, Tarantino puns with chicken. This is definitely a thing. I have since come back to these notes 3 separate times. Can't come up with a single one.
Okay.
So it may be impossible. I don't know. I want to put that out to our audience.
Okay. That's
for
great.
A good Tarantino chicken pun.
That's great. And if we think of one, we're definitely editing it in right now as if I'm like cycling through the movies.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the movie is.
That's what I was doing too. I even started looking up different breeds of chicken to get really deep into this, and then I realized like, no, that's not going to work.
I don't know. Tarantino's chicken feet is the first thing that comes to mind, but we can do better.
That's better than anything I had. You tell us, listeners. But they get a bunch of chickens, both frozen and thawed, and this is the second time this season that we've seen this. They make a sabot, a cartridge for firing the chickens, and this is one of those nice moments. We've seen this a few times where it's like prior knowledge from other episodes is now informing. My understanding of where we go. Of course, you have to make a sabot because the chicken is smaller than the barrel. Of course, it is. And to help them in this endeavor, they bring in someone named Bruce Bradford, who I'm sure you are a fan of. I know how you love your side characters.
Come on, he's great.
He is, and I didn't think I'd ever say this phrase, a renowned punkin' chunkin' champion. Beautiful. Beautiful.
They were so right to focus on that and to make the narrator repeatedly say it over and over.
Because
Mr. Lee, thank you. Honestly,
I kind of felt like, he's going to be like an expert, like because these chicken cannons exist. He's a chicken cannon guy. They were like, nah, it's way funnier to get the punkin' chunkin' dude. Great.
Whatever you're imagining, it's stranger.
I also thought at this point in the show, I was like, they're really blowing through this. Like, I didn't remember where the episode would go. And I was like, are we kind of back to not cross-cutting the myths? Because, like, they're already testing. They fire a frozen chicken, and it blows straight through the blast shield.
I mean, does not even put up a fight.
Does not say a whole lot for their blast shields.
Lodged in like the corner.
Oh my God. It's like a terrible pinata. Like hanging in the corner with all this just flesh hanging down. They said that the frozen...
It went through the blast shield, through the front of the airplane window, out the back.
Insane. Full metal chicken. Oh my God.
Now I'm just imagining a bird flying through there and just right out the back.
Well, that bird's in coach now.
Yes.
It came right through. It's hanging in the back in the cheap seats. It was at over 120 miles per hour when it hit the windshield.
No.
That is insane.
No.
They of course then have to do the thawed chicken, and it's a little bit slower, 99 miles an hour, but still just as destructive. I mean, it just unbelievably.
It's a bit slower. That chicken's only clocking 99 miles per hour.
Did you catch? I'm pretty sure, and I don't think it was here. I think it was later.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that Robert Lee, the incredible narrator of Mythbusters, who we adore on this show,
Truly.
At one point, instead of saying clocked in, he said it clucked in.
Oh, I caught it. I caught it.
It was so subtle. He didn't lean on it. It wasn't like clucked. It was just like the chicken clucked in and kept going. He just threw it away.
It was perfect.
Beautiful.
It was perfect.
Because you see that on a page, and you know some part of him had to go like, oh, I'm a professional.
Yeah, I know what they want me to do.
I know what they want me to do, and I'm not doing it. So I've got to find a better way. And he found the better way. It was so good.
That's just one of those times where you're like, script? Not great, but the performance. Ooh, he made it sing.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oscar goes to. And again here they're doing their tests, and this is where I'm like, oh wow, they're actually going to wrap this up pretty quick because they do that. They're reducing the speed of the gun and just trying to like hone in. I felt like what they were trying to do was they kept cutting the pressure that they were firing the chickens at, and I figured they were trying to get to a point where it would just like bounce off. Find that threshold, and they never did. No. It just keeps right through every single time, and I was like, oh, this is pretty straightforward. And they say, yeah, there's no difference. It's busted, and I was like, that was not as big as I remember this myth being, and then we got a great. But wait.
There's more.
And this is where they find out, and this blows my mind in a couple different directions. Let's see if you had the same reaction that I did. Yeah. They find out that the windshields that they're using weren't rated for bird strike.
You mean there?
Yeah.
There are planes out there that aren't.
Exactly. That's like saying this plane isn't rated for flight.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's not pressurized.
Yeah.
What? I didn't think you could do that.
That blew my mind because I was like, one, I loved it as a beat for the episode because I was like, we haven't seen them. That is, I even think Adam says like, this is the biggest mistake we've ever made.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's, that really is interesting narratively. And to see how they're going to solve that makes a great leave for this part of the show. Like, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. But then I did have that reaction of like, what the frick is good as an airplane windscreen if you can't even withstand a bird strike? Like, that's crazy.
Clucky Brown. There it is.
Pretty good.
I thank you. I'm so glad that you brought this up because I thought about it a lot. Like, I actually had to rewind the episode a bit because like I got on a tangent in my brain where I was like, okay, well, maybe it's a smaller aircraft, so maybe it's not built for higher altitude. No, that doesn't make sense because like birds can only fly but so high. So you would think it would be the opposite, that you wouldn't need bird strike on planes that are going higher. No, but they have to go through the birds. I can't come up with anything to make it make sense.
Exactly. And also like...
Wait, maybe it was an older plane. Like it was pre... Yeah, but even still,
I mean, they were using multiple different windshields. So it's apparently the
presumably they had to.
Well, yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is like they were buying extra windshields and like
that fit a plane.
Yes, and none of them are that was mind blowing to me. I mean, and I actually maybe that explains how they made the mistake because they were like, why would a plane not be rated for bird strike?
That makes sense. Unless. No, I don't think they would cut it themselves. That seems like too much effort.
Like the windshield itself? Yeah, I doubt that. Because it's like a blow molded, like it's rounded and not, But they leave off here to say, we've got to fix this problem. And we've got to do this again.
If we've got any aviation experts out there, let us know, please.
I recognize that your intuition, like mine, is...
It appears Adam has a little something to get off his chest.
I didn't mean to call you stupid this morning.
Did you call me stupid?
I didn't. I said stupid, and I was talking to you, but I wasn't calling you stupid.
Okay. Nobody ever calls me stupid.
I've called you stupid, but not to your face.
Not in live.
Myth 2, Deadly Washing Machine. So... This one's quite the story. I'm going to have to stretch my my hosting abilities here.
Yeah. Oh, wow. He's standing up and everything.
In this story, someone stuffed their washing machine with 50 pounds of laundry.
Sure.
It wouldn't get all the way in, so they actually got onto the washing machine to stamp on it with their feet. In the process, they sink down into the washing machine, accidentally cut it on. The washing machine starts spinning them around. They get knocked around into a shelf of bleach, which spills all over the floor. A dog comes in at this point. Because it's making a racket, presumably. The person in the washing machine then knocks over some baking soda. The dog gets so scared, as you would, he pees on the baking soda, which then explodes, And to cap it all off, the guy, in shock from the explosion, knocks his head on a shelf and dies.
Oh,
You know, the story our grandmas all told us growing up.
yeah.
Simple.
Okay. There's one edit I have here. Because it was incredibly strange to me that in the story, it's not the explosion that kills him.
No.
The explosion, increases the speed of the washing machine, which causes him to hit his head. You've added 7 layers to this that just did not need to be there.
This has got to be the craziest story we've had so far. We've had crazy in terms of the microchip stud finder myth and that kind of crazy, but in terms of just complicated Rube Goldberg-esque series of events to get somewhere, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The basic idea here is essentially, or the basic question here centers more around, can a washing machine run with you in it? And in this kind of scenario, could you get trapped in a washing machine in a way that would become really dangerous? I guess that's the testable question. I don't know.
Man, I don't think there is one. I really this very much felt to me because at no point is Jamie at all. Jamie's not even particularly amused by this one. He just doesn't want to be there.
We'll get there in a minute, but I mean, when they get to the only weirdly, the only kind of bona fide testable part of this they don't even go into, which is the dog pee baking soda thing.
Right.
You would think that would be the one thing you could pull some kind of science out of to explain. And when they get there, Adam is just making a joke of the whole, doesn't care.
They're both making a joke because Jamie can hardly believe it, and Adam is overselling it to the point that that
exactly.
that it's a bit.
And I still wound up. I mean, this myth, I don't think it's a great myth in structurally, but it's entertaining as can be.
And yes, that is why I totally agree, especially on paper. Bad myth. This is the myth that gave us so far my favorite scene.
Oh, okay.
Show.
Okay.
This is the one.
Where was it?
This is the one.
You want to tell us now, or do you want me to keep going and we'll hit it when we hit it?
Keep going. We'll hit it.
So the first step for this one, of course, is to go and buy a washing machine. Not the most exciting montage we've seen, except, did you notice that in the background of the place where they were, there's a store that the sign just says liquor and deli?
Yes! Yes!
I love this place.
I love imagining that that's where they got the pig.
Yes.
Where what appeared to be inmates were just that is the liquor and deli for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's where they stuffed the ballistics gel dummy that time. We had the inmates in the Oh my God, I love San Francisco so much. The Mythbusters world of San Francisco is just fantastic. I was like, we're in the South where you can't get liquor in average stores. You have to go to specific stores. Yes. So it's even funnier to me to think of a deli where you could also just, come in and pick up a pint.
Yeah, might as well.
Oh,
hey,
so
you know
good.
what would go really well with that sliced provolone?
Old-fashioned?
An old-fashioned,
That sounds great.
Exactly.
Oh, man. They also have to go and buy laundry. They buy 50 pounds of laundry at a thrift store in order to replicate the myth.
Okay. This is also, this is the least believable part of this story to me. Is that somebody would try to fit 50 pounds of laundry? I've washed clothing before, Cliff.
Yeah.
Who doesn't know that if it's too full, all of the clothes won't get wet? That's a pretty...
Yeah, I mean, not the most ridiculous thing about this story.
This is washing machine 101. No, not at all. Not at all.
I am with you, but if there's any part of this that I could see somebody doing, it is probably that. I can see the kernel of truth in this one being somebody overstuffed a washing machine and got on it to try to, tamp it down and realized, oh, that's probably bad. I can see some level of maybe a story comes out of something related to that. That's the only part I can justify at all.
I can, as someone that doesn't have jack about science in general,
chemistry,
the things but I know I remember making the volcano.
Yeah.
So vinegar, pee, they gotta be similar.
Okay, here's that actually leads to a good question. When you heard explosion, what do you picture?
Oh, great point. Because also, I was expecting there to be like a little, just like some sort of observable reaction.
I was imagining like a stage smoke bomb.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I saw like a flash kind of thing.
Yeah,
not like not like a destructive explosion, but
certainly
just like
nothing with force that would even turn up a knob, on a washing machine.
And that is why I say I kind of wish they had gone into that a little bit of like, okay, we can see that you might think about this and do the classic baking soda thing and show that you can cause reactions with baking soda. And say like, that's where this is coming from, and then do the test and then explain why the properties of urine don't do the same thing as whatever. Maybe that's too sciencey. Maybe I'm asking a little too much of what is ultimately an entertainment show.
Yes.
But I did think like, oh, that's the one part of this that I felt like they could actually get something out of, narratively or scientifically or whatever. And they didn't really. But
now, Cliff, I'm going to ask you something that I never thought I would. Did you not think it would be easier to get dog pee?
Yeah. As someone who has a dog who pees a lot.
I'll pee so much.
I feel like this should have been a lot easier.
I just thought for certain like they could go to a vet or something.
Yeah. Like of all the things that they've gone out and just had a way to buy, but they have to go steal?
They had to go draft civilians
from strangers?
That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Is that all of the pee that they acquired were for random people in the park
who were really game.
Who were like, oh, you need my dog's pee? Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't going to do anything with it.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even see that you had a camera. I was just going to give it to you.
I usually just leave it there. What a fool.
Yeah, I got some.
Yeah.
But it'll cost you.
I did.
They're cutting production costs by getting the pee straight from the source.
It had real quack damn you vibes too, because they're practically bullying these dogs.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Like, has he peed yet? I don't think so. Well, keep an eye on him.
They also here we get another, and this is why this myth to me, even though it kind of reminded me of the microchip thing a little bit, it was way more entertaining because we get another great invention. They have to make a super washing machine. And did you notice they said they did it with an electric car motor?
I sure did.
And I was like, electric cars in like 2004, this probably would have been 2003 when they shot it. I was like, kind of interesting. I didn't expect that. I know that there have been various forms of electric cars for a long time. I just didn't expect an electric car motor to be something they would have access to.
No, I would have thought like if you had a golf cart battery.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
But like no. I did find that interesting. Also, we cannot just gloss over the fact that not only were they having strangers collect the pee, they were having them run around with like a casserole pan.
Yeah, like you use when you're grilling.
Yeah.
Like what?
Like a tin pan.
Anyone who has ever held one of those know that they are so thin they will just bend if there's liquid in it, and they're putting pee in it.
I mean, granted, not a lot, but and then Adam just like freehands it.
Yeah,
he just like grabs the pan, uses the corner, pours it into the little same. No prop, not a drop.
Yep,
not a drop.
And like random people are helping them now. Or people are so into it that they're just like, yeah, no, I got this. Don't worry. And they're offering it.
Do you think they had to like turn some of it down? Like, all right. We have enough pee.
Do you think they had to sign a release?
Oh, 100%. Their faces are in it.
I mean, for the pee. They have to sign a release for the pee. Of like, I'm not responsible if you cause an explosion with this urine.
Did the dog sign a release? I'm not responsible.
Just a paw print on the...
Neither me nor my hound is responsible for any explosions which may or may not occur.
This controlled substance that we're giving you access to. They are, as they get ready for the test, I noticed that they introduced Buster. They were going to use Buster for this. Did you notice that we get an entire montage of all the things that they've done to him, which makes Buster a fully fledged character now?
He's here.
He's here. He's
here
the
to
guy.
Stay. Yeah.
And it's like, that's part of the joke is we do something terrible to Buster all the time. It's great. So made me so happy to see.
This was my favorite. Keep going.
So then they just have to do it. So they put Buster in the, as I'm dubbing it, the Frankenwasher.
Yes.
And cut it on. And it is a Buster tornado. Absolute chaos.
This is the hardest I've laughed. This is the
just
hardest I've laughed.
Just watching him spin out in the...
I watched it several times because it's just similar. I know we bring it up every episode, but similar to Rocket Car, where it's just comically fast.
Yeah.
It's so much quicker than you were anticipating, especially at full speed. Just watching him, because like his arms fly up, so he's T-posing while rotating at like 85 miles per hour. It's so funny. And even if you don't watch the whole episode, look up this clip.
And we should mention they're doing this in M5. So, like,
they're inside.
I did think about, like, we've seen Buster's, like, arm joints, like, shear and fly off before. If one of those would have happened, that would have killed somebody.
Absolutely. They weren't even, I don't even think they were, like, behind glass at this point.
I don't think at that point, no.
Oh, my God. But also, again, it probably, like, it went so much faster than, I just didn't know. It looks so unnatural to watch something spin that fast.
I know.
It's so strange.
Something we glossed over that I don't want to forget because I think we were laughing too much.
Yeah.
The reason they had to make the super washing machine is that real washing machines are made to not do this.
Oh, right. So
I just jumped straight to super
busted.
machine.
But
they pretty much busted the myth early on with just the notion that, you know, they put 50 pounds of laundry in and it obviously wouldn't turn.
Yes.
Wouldn't turn with Adam in it. And they did explain some of the like cutoffs and stuff that are made to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So they didn't just jump to super washing machine.
Yeah.
I should have set that up better. But yeah, I mean, really, super washing machine is why you're here, because you're 100%. Right. Watching Buster just flail like crazy. The funny thing was the way it was set up, like the chaos that is described by the myth was totally there. You know, like I can totally believe if that is what happened. Yeah, he's dead.
100%.
It makes sense.
Yes.
In that sense.
You would. He must have been like weighted down somehow, because like you would go flying out of that thing.
Oh, you would think, yeah.
Like,
I mean, I guess
he just stays there.
And I mean, they did have like his legs pretty deep in there with all the like clothes around it, so maybe that held him. But
that's true.
They looked like they had a safety wire too to make sure that he wouldn't, you know, go flying. But man. After the Buster tornado, they have to test the dog pee part of it. Mm-hmm. And this was my favorite moment because they put up their blast shields. Adam dresses in a fire protective suit.
Full like bomb squad suit.
And this is, you said this earlier, this is where he is not taking this seriously at all. And he just says,
basically now I'm about to pour the dog wee on the pile of baking soda, which, if the myth is correct, should cause a small explosion. Or if we're actually on Earth, we'll do absolutely butt-this.
Oh, I love it. And that is the moment that made me want to go, okay, but explain why. But I guess that was not needed. It was ridiculous enough on its face that...
Yeah, I guess to actual science people, they're like, of course it's ridiculous. Oh, yeah, we all knew... We all knew that.
We all
totally.
Knew. I guess I'm not peeing in my volcano now.
Oh, I'm still going to pee in
it. Of course, nothing happens, which fully busts this myth. And, this is one where the end result to me was never in question. Like, this was at every stage, this was one of those, nope. Mm-hmm. But, man, the engineering of it and the chaos that it created, it was the entertainment on this one outpaced or, kind of eclipsed the ness of the myth itself.
100%.
And it was great.
And I also think that comes out in many cases by just how much the cast and crew are losing it.
Yeah. How much fun they're having.
Just keeling over because it's so funny.
We had that several times. We had that with the 7-Up gun too. Like it's great to see them having fun like that. It makes it really fun to watch.
Well, Jamie, that's actually, I think, a first for us. There's not one fact about this myth that's true.
Yeah, usually at least there's a tiny grain of truth somewhere in the stuff that we're dealing with. It has to start somewhere.
Myth decimated.
So then we are back to our chicken gun. When we left our heroes, they were trying to figure out what they were going to do since they had gotten everything wrong. And they come up with an idea here to essentially just test the moment of impact. Mm-hmm. They are testing just for speed and force. Mm-hmm. Is there more force exerted by a frozen chicken or a thawed chicken? So they actually set up the gun to fire chickens at a steel plate and use the high-speed camera, which this was super cool. That's something we've talked about as a memory of the show. They use the high-speed camera to actually track the frames and measure the overall speed of the chickens, and that's going to be their new test. What did you think about that model?
All right, I'm going to be honest. I didn't care because the end result was such good television that, like, whether or not I thought it was like a good testable thing or would prove whatever it is they were trying to disprove, like, it was so funny.
It was during this myth that I just wrote a note where I was like, it occurs to me that I'm just watching people fire chickens out of a cannon, and God, I love this show.
I mean, it's so true because, like, they don't have a chance. They are eviscerated.
They disappear. I mean, the chicken, when it hits, it was bad enough when it was hitting the windshield. When it hits the steel plate, it's just gone. There's just nothing left.
Jamie holds up like a full chicken skeleton. Like all the meat is just... It's a real Death Star situation.
It's
like
fantastic.
That sucker is just... But the one thing that I did... I'm sorry.
The chickens have really gotten Harrison this week.
Okay, if you only watch 2 things in this episode, also watch the chickens exploding.
Or do yourself a favor and rewatch every single episode from the beginning like we are.
Yay! No, I'm having a great time. I lost it. I can't stop thinking about the chicken blowing up.
I hope that's going to be like, you're going to get home tonight and be talking to your wife and just in the middle go, I'm sorry, dear. I can't stop thinking about the chicken.
I'm sorry, babe. Not tonight. I can't stop thinking about the chickens. They're in my soul.
They fire both the frozen and the thawed chickens, both at over 140 miles per second, I think is what they came down to.
Excellent.
Unbelievable. Or maybe it was 140 miles per hour. Either way, 7 1,000ths of a second impact time on each.
Time for a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
I think they were using a new high-speed camera.
Okay.
Because it seemed much smoother, and much cleaner much more
image?
Detailed.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Than any of the past ones. And moreover, I think I know the myth that killed it.
Oh, from the rear axle?
Yes, sir.
When the wire came off and smacked the camera.
I think they broke the thing. I really do.
You made the point then that wasn't just a high-speed camera. It was the high-speed camera, so probably so.
Yeah.
Probably so.
The happy accident.
Yeah.
Because you get to see the chickens explode in the highest definition.
So great. And they say that there's no difference between frozen and thawed, which busts the myth.
And again, that's just, I understand that there is science behind that. I don't really understand the science.
Well, but herein lies my problem with this. Okay. I actually don't love this result. And I'll be very curious to see if this does get retested, if the reasons are the reasons I'm thinking, which is, I understand from a pure science force perspective, there's no difference in the impact force between frozen and thawed because it's the same mass.
Right.
I can fake my way through that math, right? Sure. But what this was really about was the damage that it causes.
Yeah.
And when they fired both of those chickens, the thawed chicken was basically just getting obliterated completely on impact. The frozen seemed like it was staying a little bit more intact because it would be harder. So my thinking is, it is conceivable to me that the frozen chicken would act more like a cannonball that would do more damage to a plane.
That's what I thought.
Than a thawed chicken that's just going to explode. It's the difference in shooting somebody with a BB versus shooting somebody with a pea.
Yeah.
One, or even a frozen pea. One is going to completely obliterate on impact, and the other might hold together long enough to make some difference in damage. Maybe not. Maybe it maths out in the end, and that doesn't matter. But that was my only question.
This came up in Penny Drop as well, because I guess I've just been so trained on superhero landings that I really think,
the faster it goes means more damage.
Yeah. I still think that. And I know it's not true, but it's but the crater, the anime craters,
exactly.
It has to be true.
Yeah, I think this might be one of those math science things that is just completely counterintuitive. So it'll be interesting to see if it does get retested, if where they land.
Gotta be. I mean, what? God, I'm gonna out myself as a not big on science guy, but I mean, wasn't it Galileo who dropped to prove to everybody that was true? Dropped two things.
Like a pillow or like a feather and a hammer. Or whatever.
Or whatever it was, and was see.
Yeah, that is another. It does kind of feel like that kind of thing, though. The completely counterintuitive result for what it is.
I'll show you morons.
Before they move on out of this myth, I thought it was great that they just shot pumpkins out of the chicken gun. Because he got the pumpkin chucking guy. What are you going to do?
Just because.
But yet again, they destroy their blast shields.
Yeah.
Which I recognize that they're shooting these pumpkins heavy and they're shooting it pretty fast. But I would want to think that my blast shield could withstand a pumpkin.
A pumpkin at least, Cliff. A pumpkin at minimum it needs to be able to withstand.
Yeah. Doesn't say a lot for that blast shield.
Your blast shields, are they pumpkin proof?
Oh, I'm sorry. This blast shield not rated for pumpkin strike.
Woo! That was so cool.
Feel a little tingle between your legs when that sucker went out?
I do. It's going to be hard to top that.
Myth 3. So if you are surprised that there's another myth this late in the episode, so was I. They start this with only 6.5 minutes left. But this is, the myth 3 is octopus pregnancy.
I was about to turn it off.
And it comes down to the question of, can a human carry a live octopus essentially like a baby?
I hated
or in
it.
their stomach?
I hated
So it's
it.
essentially a story about a diver swallowing an octopus egg, later being admitted to the hospital months later, and they found that there was a live growing octopus inside of them. Can that actually happen? What's interesting about this...
Did they say what year this myth was from?
No, they do get into a little bit about these types of stories used to be very prevalent, and that maybe this is sort of a slightly more modernized version of...
I was about to say, because if it's anywhere around any of the Alien movies, I know where this came from.
That's actually a really good
chest
thought.
burster.
That's a really good thought, that maybe this is the modernization, the alien inspired modernization of an old story.
It could be the other way around, though. It could be an old story that it's like, oh, that's really scary for it to be an octopus. What if it was an alien octopus?
So I do know that this goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. I actually read a book I mentioned on the podcast previously, Gulp by Mary Roach.
Yeah.
And she investigates things about being eaten alive, swallowed alive, whatever. And she goes back and there's all kinds of old stories about snakes being alive in people and all these old myths that kind of symbolized, I'm just starting to sound like our folklorist now, but symbolized evils and symbolized impurity and whatever, and you would have something evil inside of you. So this probably is a version of that kind of thing. What's weird, there's not a whole lot to dig into from a testing standpoint here, because I really liked this myth, but boy, it didn't feel like Mythbusters. They bust the myth by talking.
Yep.
There's no test. There's no test of, creating, an acidic environment that's like a stomach and putting something in it. Yeah. There's no, I mean, obviously
we filled a pig stomach with real acid.
Exactly. There's nothing.
Put some calamari in there.
They just interview a scientist who pretty much
it was like absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And so then they walk into it and they talk about all the like I said, where it came from. They talk about tapeworms, which that was awful.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, they basically just go, no, unless it's something that is designed to survive in the gastric system.
Unless it's a parasite, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Then it's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the verdict.
Which is odd because there have been myths this season in which they've talked to a scientist and gone, all right, let's go do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was just.
I would love to know how this one came to be. Like if they started thinking maybe they thought, well, we can't.
Jamie has eaten an octopus egg.
Maybe the thought was like, we can't kill, obviously, a live octopus, but maybe they would let us put an octopus egg in an acidic solution, and Discovery said no. I don't know. It just feels like there would have been more to this, and there wasn't. The one thing, though, is as simple and kind of uneventful as this is, there is something in it I'm never going to be able to get out of my head, which is when one of the scientists they go to, this doctor, describes tapeworms that would usually be removed from someone in a writhing mass, and he calls it a Medusa head.
Yep.
Never going to forget that.
Yeah, did you look it up too?
No, I didn't.
Oh, don't.
Nope. No. That was enough for me.
Don't. Because it's images first.
Yeah,
like I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what.
That safe search ain't on, is it? That safe search is not on.
It stays off, Cliff.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I did really enjoy it. Like, it was really well done. It just felt like a different show.
A different show, and also something that I was like, this is creepy and weird enough that I'd like to hear. Oh, no more? Oh, we're done? Oh, okay.
Yeah, credits.
Damn. Okay.
Oh, all right. Well, only 6 minutes for that one.
Pretty good show, guys. Well done. Well done.
And it was. I mean, this is another instance where the third myth is a bit of a letdown, but still overall, what a great episode. Like I thought, like I said, there was oddness with each of the myths in terms of their results and their, the way that they're talked about, but they're so well handled and so entertaining and so funny that the show is just on a stride at this point.
And it gave us the oh wow, I can't even hit it.
Busternado?
I was trying like Bus Twister, but it was too hard to hit the double
Bwister?
S.
Bwister? A Bwister?
That's it. A Bwister.
I got that. I didn't get any Tarantino puns, but I got that.
Worth it. Great episode. Call it.
Listeners, please tell us your Tarantino puns. We want to hear those.
I do. I would love to just get like an inflow. I would love to get one.
I
would love to have one person
just to like check that box. Just to like check that box in my head that there is a pun out there. It's great.
It exists.
Makes me feel good to know that it's there.
It's not Clucky Brown, but we're closer. We're closer.
I didn't have Clucky Brown. There's a lot of people listening to this who didn't have Clucky Brown, so I think you should be proud of yourself. But we will be back next week. Our next episode is season 1, episode 14. The myths are, this is a legendary one, Break Step Bridge, Toothbrush Surprise, and the Rowing Water Skier.
Toothbrush surprise sounds.
It's as bad as you think.
Oh, I doubt it, but guess we'll find out.
We hope that you will watch along as well and come back next week to listen to us break it down. Until then, thanks for listening.
Bye, bubbies. Try This at Home is produced by Slugline Media. The show is written, hosted, edited, and shot onto the internet by Cliff Bumgardner and Harrison Stewart. Our music is by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. You can follow the show on Instagram at TryThisPod or email us trythisathomepod@gmail.com.